Dragonfly is an animated short film about the Tokyo firebombing of March 9th through 10th, 1945, written, produced, and directed by me, Julia Morizawa. The primary thing that inspired me to write this story was a desire to research my own family history and my family heritage. It kind of came up for me in my 20s, and I interviewed my mom and asked her what her parents might have experienced during World War II, and she didn't really know other than Tokyo, and there was a fire, and they had to go home back to Komodo, to the family farm. And in my research, that's how I found out about the Tokyo firebombing, and kind of being surprised that I had never heard about that before. I wanted to research and share about it more in a narrative storytelling format.
The little girl, that was me. Chase dragonfly and play with the dragonfly and played outside until my mother called in. So that was really me.
Did your parents ever talk to you about their experience before you were born?
No, really. Really, I think my parents and no one told about even war and of course this Tokyo firebombing. Then my brother told me they are living in Tokyo and they got a big fire and they have to go back to my grandparents' farm.
Originally, it was not in the forefront of my mind. If I wanted to self-produce, how can I self-produce the Tokyo firebombing? Oh, well, maybe animation. Maybe that does make sense.
I am Maria Marta Linero, and I am the animation director of Dragonfly, and I also part of an animation studio called Roly Poly. I hand drew the first storyboards and the character designs. Then I continued with the graphic tablets, and I used Photoshop for the backgrounds and characters. And for the animation, we used Adobe Animate and After Effects.
Hola, mi nombre es Eva Benítez, soy lead animator en Dragonfly. Tengo más de 15 años de experiencia como animadora y trabajo principalmente en animación de personajes de series, películas y publicidad.
I did make a point to specifically look for women. I wanted, if possible, the core creative team to be all women, and it just so happens that we are also all women of color. The main voice cast are all people I know, and they're all people who identify as Japanese American, and that was really important to me, just as a person who's Japanese American and has been working in this industry for a couple of decades.
I wanted to bring something artistic and organic, but at the same time, I didn't have enough time to draw or paint frame by frame. So I tried something in between. We mixed cutout animation and frame by frame, and we also animated texture in some part of the film in order to express movement, chaos, and life.
El flujo de trabajo era el siguiente. María Marta me enviaba el animatic, yo consultaba las referencias de Julia y a veces me filmaba a mí misma actuando las escenas. Luego hacía el boceto de la animación, se lo enviaba a Julia y una vez que ella lo aprobaba, yo hacía la versión final.
I think the first time Maria sent me a finished clip, I think I cried because I was like, wow, this looks way better than what I was expecting. So I was so happy about that. There were some other choices that were kind of like both artistic and practical, like setting the flashback scenes in largely black and white. Also in the flashback scenes, especially the firebombing, you'll notice background characters turn into what I call shadow people. A lot of that was initially a practicality that ended up actually being the better choice creatively. It was a conscious choice to keep the film in English because I speak English. I don't speak Japanese. I don't write in Japanese. So everything was written and developed in English. And comes from an admittedly Western perspective, because it comes from my perspective. So I actually decided to keep all the dialogue in English and have the actors maintain their natural American accents. And one thing that I did want to do, though, was to remind us at some point that this is not an American story. It's set in Japan. And so I had all those background actors come in and start filling the sound in Japanese, just kind of as a reminder. You gave me permission to use some of your real life things in the movie, like your name, your mom and dad's names, the photo of the graveyard at your family farm, the kanji of your maiden name. And I've always been curious, like, when I asked, you were just like, yeah, no problem. But I've always been curious if there was something that motivated that decision, or if it like makes you uncomfortable now that you see the film, like hearing your real name and your parents' names.
No, I didn't feel uncomfortable. So I thought, through my family's history and name, it's nice to show how happened the firebombing.
I like the story since the beginning, and I like that Julia, the director, knew what she wants. She had all in her mind all the time, and at the same time she gave me a lot of creative freedom. So yes, I really appreciate that.
The most challenging part of the process was getting the film done and keeping the faith that the film was going to get done. 2019, January, I wrote the script. Voiceover production was August of 2019. And we finished the film technically in March of 2023, but we did make some tweaks since then. So it was a long process. I had 2 kids during the making of this film. So it was a big chunk of my life. So do you feel that this story is important even today?
I guess so. I think we should remember, and we should more talk about, and like your short film, like make a film or whatever. That's what I think.
I want audiences to take away from this film first, which might be the obvious, but awareness about this tragic event in history that a lot of people don't know about. And I think the importance of educating, the current or younger generations about history is just the typical, like, so history doesn't repeat itself, right? We gotta keep learning about our history in order to progress. I hope that audiences are inspired to go home and like talk to their parents if they never have. Like, I don't know if you could tell from the interview, but like my mom and I, we don't talk a lot. We don't have that's like the first like sit down I've ever had with her. Our conversations are very short. Talk to their grandparents. That thing that I never got to do, I never got to talk to any of my grandparents. And sort of maintaining your family history and your family heritage. And then those of us who go on to have kids, remembering, oh, you might think that part of your life was boring, but your kids will find it interesting because those things don't exist anymore. Was it you or was it Dad who told me that when you used to play with dragonflies, you actually used to torture them?
That's me.
You'd rip off their wings?
Yeah,
so I thought that was a little too much.
I thought it was just too cruel because I was a little girl. I didn't know that's the only way I could save a dragonfly because otherwise they fly away.
Oh, you were trying to keep them.
Yeah,
so you take them.
I love the dragonfly, so I catch it in the where I clip the feather, and I made a house on the ground. So they could stay in the house.
Did they stay alive with their...
Yes.
For a long time?
Yeah.
Or not very long?
Just couldn't go
They couldn't...
anywhere, yeah. Because I fed too.
Oh, you fed them? So you kept them?
Yes.